थैंक यू डॉक्टर रजा फॉर मेकिंग माई जॉब इजी, क्योंकि अगर आपने फंक्शनल एनाटमी ऑफ फेस समझ ली है तो आपके लिए बहुत इजी होगा इस लेक्चर को समझना. So I will discuss the botulinum toxin injection techniques for the upper, mid and the lower face. As we grow older, the sign of aging develop on our face in the form of sagging of the skin. There are various factors which are responsible for the aging. Some intrinsic factor and some extrinsic factor. Like genetic factor are important, hyperdynamic facial expressions, bone changes with the age, atrophy of the dermis and subcutaneous tissue develop with the age, gravity, smoking, photoaging, and the. But thanks to the light, laser, needles, threads, and so many cosmetic procedures which are there to help us look younger than our age. So here today we are discussing the botulinum toxin A. It is the most common and minimally invasive cosmetic procedure, and how it acts. It causes the chemical denervation at the neuromuscular junction due to inhibition of the acetylcholine release. So there is reduced muscle contraction and it smoothens the skin. Uh, the dynamic wrinkles shows the dramatic response to the Botox, while the static wrinkles may also show the response, but it will be slow and cumulative effect with the repeated injections. While the deep static wrinkles may require, along with the Botox, some dermal filler and the resurfacing. So, again, repetition of functional anatomy is very important. You must know where to inject and where not to inject, because it is an art, combination of art and science. Okay. So, which are the lines which are we are going to improve with the help of botulinum toxin? This horizontal forehead line, frown line, crow's feet, bunny line here, lip line, chin line, maronite line, and the nasolabial fold. So before going for the botulinum toxin injection, make sure that you have proper selection of the patient and rule out any contraindication before the injection. If there is known hypersensitivity to any ingredient in the formulation, don't inject the patient. If there is disorder of the neuromuscular junction like myasthenia gravis, don't inject the patient. If there is presence of active infection at the injection site or some active disease at that site, hypertrophic or keloidal scarring history is there, history of bleeding disorder, impaired immunity, skin present. If there is gross muscular weakness in the treatment area, for example, due to polio or Bell's palsy, or if there is history of periocular or ocular surgery within the previous 6 months, if we are treating the glabular complex or the crow's feet area, or if the patient is taking some medication which also blocks the neuromuscular signaling, and if there is some uncontrolled systemic condition or body dysmorphic. So carefully assess the patient before the treatment for the age and gender. Gender is important, as in the male patient you may require more dosage because of the increased muscle mass. Take a proper medical history to rule out any contraindication, assess the shape of the face, tone of the skin, any volume loss, and assess for any facial asymmetry before the injection. This is very. Now, how to prepare the injection? We can use the dilution of various strengths, but most commonly we use the 2.5 ml. Usually we use the insulin syringe, which is of 1 ml. If we dilute the Botox vial of 100 units with 2.5 ml of the normal saline, each 0.1 ml of the insulin syringe will deliver the 4 units of the botulinum toxin A. It is very important, as you need to know how many units are you going to inject at a particular site. So, you must know the anatomy of. Here, just to revise it again, for the glabellar complex, here 3 muscles are important: corrugator here, procerus, and the depressor supercilii. All these 3 muscles draws the medial end of the eyebrow downward and medially. So these produce the frown line. Here is the frontalis, which results in the formation of the horizontal forehead lines. Here the orbicularis oculi, which forms the crow's feet, nasalis muscle, which is involved in the bunny line formation, orbicularis oris muscle for the radial lip line, mentalis for the chin line, depressor anguli oris produce the marionette line. So first I will discuss the gabular line or the frown line. Here the frown line. So which muscle are responsible for the frown line? Corrugator here, procerus here, and the depressor supercilii. So we inject the procerus and the corrugator muscle. These are the different clinical variant of the patient. Ask the patient to elicit the contraction, ask the patient to frown, and you can see these lines in the form of 11 single line here, and this horizontal line. This is usually due to strong contraction of the procerus. So before the injection, you must know where to inject. This is the safety zone area. This is, if you draw a line from the lateral limbus here, upward towards the hairline. This is the lateral border, and keep your injection 1 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge. Now there are 5 injection points for the glabular complex. If you draw a line from the medial end of the brow to the medial canthus of the eye, at the point of intersection of these two, this is the point of injection for the procerus muscle. And this is the medial end of the corrugator just above the eyebrow, and this injection point is very important because most of the complication will arise from a wrong injection over this side. This should be 1 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge along the mid-pupillary line. So the initial recommended dose for the male is 20 to 40, female is 16 to 24. We must review the patient after 2 weeks. The onset of action may take 1 to 14 days, and the effect lasts for 3 to 4. These are the 5 injection points for the glabular complex, 4 units at each site. 5 points for the glabular complex. Here you can see the technique of injection. Slightly pinch the skin, and you can see the non-injecting hand is protecting the orbit. Okay. The direction of needle is upward here, and the depth of the needle is also important. Here, half depth of the needle is inserted for the procerus. Here, medial part of the corrugator lies deep to the frontalis, so you have to go deep. So full needle depth is required here, and here the later part, very important injection point. You have to stay 1 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge and along the mid-pupillary line. So the shape of the corrugator may be different in different patients. Always ask before the injection patient to elicit the contraction. In some patients, they may be short squared corrugator, in some they may be broad thin. Here, like in this patient, the muscle is short and squared. You can see this contracted muscle. In this patient, here is a point of insertion of corrugator. So you may need don't need a lateral injection. While in this patient, it is broad and thin, extending up to here. So more lateral injection may be required. Muscle in contraction, short, squared, and broad, thin. So these are the treatment results before the injection, and these are after the injection. We call the patient for follow-up after 2 weeks for the touch-up. If the patient still have strong muscle contraction, you can inject with a small dosage of 5 to 10 units. What are the complications related to infection? General complications related to infection like injection, like the pain, bruising, erythema, edema, headache, infection, numbness, dysesthesia, and the vasovagal. Or there are some other complications which may arise if you inject into wrong muscle area or the toxin diffuses into the adjacent muscle. Is it possible to correct me? There is brotosis. Elevator. We have to elevate the bro. So what you are going to do? We can inject elevator. Here is the superior lateral part of the orbicularis oculi is the depressor of the bro. If you inject here, there will be the bro will rise. Now the latosis. Here you can see there is latosis. Why this result? If there is diffusion of the toxin into levator palpebrae superioris. This will happen if you inject too low here. At this point, if you inject too low here, here is insertion of the levator palpebrae superioris. If you inject too low here near the supraorbital ridge, then the diffusion of the toxin causes this problem. For the liptosis, we can give the patient alpha-adrenergic agonist, eye drops such as nefazolin, phenylamine, epreclonidine 0.5%, 2 to 3 drops 2 to 3 times per day. So now next is the crow's feet. What is responsible for the crow's feet? Orbicularis oculi. It has further 3 parts: orbital part and the palpebral part, lacrimal part. The palpebral part is further divided into pretarsal and the preseptal area. These are different clinical variants. Ask the patient to smile, and you can see his crow's feet, full fan shape, upper, lower, and just central crow's feet. So here the injection should be very superficial, away from the orbit, and you have to raise up blood. Don't go deep, too deep, and inject about 1 centimeter orbital ring. The initial recommended dose for the male is 20 to 25, and for the female is 15 to 20. These are 3 injection points. The first injection 1 centimeter away from the orbit, or 1.5 to 2 centimeter away from the lateral canthus here, and the other 2 points about 30 degree from the first injection. This is the safety zone for the crow's feet. The safety zone is 1 centimeter outside the orbital ring. Okay, this is the orbital ring. Keep 1 centimeter away from this, and it should be lateral to the lateral limbus line. You have to keep away from this, lateral to this, right? And the inferior part, inferior border is the upper border of zygoma or zygomatic arch. Don't go below this point, because here which muscles are there? Zygomaticus major, minor muscle are there. So if you inject into those muscles, there will be oral. These are 3 injection points for the crow's feet. Here how to inject. The non-injecting hand is protecting the orbit. Here this area is very vascular, so you must avoid the vessel while injecting, otherwise you may cause the bruise in the patient. And individual patient assessment here, upper crow's feet, so 2 injection point here. For the central one may require only 1. For upper 2 injection point, this patient has more prominent lower crow's feet, so 1 here, 1 here. These are the results of the crow's feet treatment before the injection and after the injection. Call the patient for follow-up after 2 weeks for the touch-up. If patient has persistent muscle contraction, you can inject 2.5 to 10. What are the possible complications? These include the upper lip asymmetry, dry eyes, photophobia, blepharosis, lack of thalamus due to migration into extraocular muscle, impaired blink reflex, ectropion, and oral. Why the upper lip asymmetry develop? If you go too inferior, so you are going to inject zygomaticus major or minor. So don't go below this. Dry eyes due to diffusion into lacrimal and palpebral part of the orbicularis oculi, or it may be secondary to ectropion or leg. Lower eyelid ectropion may develop if you are very aggressive in your treatment and you inject too much or go too medially, then there will be diffusion of the toxin into palpebral orbicularis oculi, and the result will be lower eyelid ectropia. Now, the lower eyelid wrinkle. There are some contraindication for this area. Make sure there is no lower eyelid dermatochalasis. If there is abnormal snap test, don't inject this patient. Prominent eye pack can get worsened with this injection, so don't inject this patient. Ectropion, leg of thalamus, excessive lower eyelids. In this picture, you can see the demonstration of leg of thalamus. Ask the patient to close the eye and roll the eyeball upward. The patient is unable to totally close the eyes, and here you can see this clear show. Do a snap test, pinch the skin, pull it back, and then release. If it returns within 3 seconds, then you can inject the patient. If the return is slow, it means there is increased skin laxity, so don't inject. Eye base control. Lower eyelid wrinkle area. Again, just to revise the anatomy around the eye. Here is the orbital part of the orbicularis oculi, palpebral part with the pre-tarsal and the pre-septal portion of the orbicularis. So where we are going to inject for lower eyelid wrinkle? Into the pre-septal part of the orbicularis oculi. The first medial injection point is about 1 centimeter along the mid-pupillary line. Here the injection must be very superficial and in a very low dose. Total dose for both eyes not more than 2.5 units, and inject at a point just 0.6 units. And the lateral is along the lateral canthus line. Technique: inject the lower eye. What are the complications here? Ectropion, leg of thalamus, eye pack worsening, impaired brain reflex, dry eyes, epiphora, trauma to the globe. So next is the frontalis, forehead lines. Forehead horizontal lines are produced due to contraction of which muscle? Frontalis. It is the brow elevator and creates the horizontal lines. Ask the patient to elicit the contraction, raise the eyebrows or the forehead. You can see in some patients, like mostly in male, there is one rectangular muscle. Female, there may be two bellies of the frontalis. Identify the safety area for the forehead injection. It should be 2 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge, and the lateral line is along the lateral limbus. This is the lateral margin, should be 2 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge, and small lateral area is also included in this, which is about 2 centimeter below the. This could be the injection for the frontalis. The recommended initial dose for the female is 6 to 10 units, and for the male is 8 to 12 units. Remember, this is the only brow elevator, so it is better to undertreat this area than to overtreat the patient, and never inject the lower 1/3. Here you can see the results of the injection before treatment and after treatment. What are the possible complications here? Brodosis, excessive brow elevation, unnatural frozen. Brodosis. Here you can see the doses. Why it happen? If you inject the lower third of the frontalis here, don't inject the lower portion of the frontalis. If you make injection into lower third of the frontalis, the result will be the doses. So, but we can correct it by injection into superior later part of the orbicularis oculi, and the medial eyebrow can be raised by treatment of the glabellar complex. So when you are treating both the frown lines and the forehead lines, only treat the upper part of the forehead. Why so? Because if you are treating the glabellar complex, some of the toxin will diffuse into lower fibers of the frontalis. So to avoid the excessive inhibition of the frontalis, only make the inject the upper portion of the complication of this is the complication of excessive brow elevation. When you inject more in the medial part and avoid the lateral injection. So the lateral part of the frontalis will continue to contract and there will be excessive brow elevation in this. But this can be corrected with small dose of the botulinum toxin. Here at the maximum, at the part of the maximum contraction of the muscle in the lower area of the frontalis. This is the cusical eyebrow which develop when you don't treat the lateral aspect of the frontalis. But remember, if you go too lateral, what complication can arise from that? Brotosis. Remember, injection point and dose vary from patient to patient as it depends on individual's functional anatomy, muscle mass, and the desired clinical. Always look for the asymmetry when you call the patient for touch-up every 2 weeks. Here you can see this is excessive elevation of brow hair. This is normal. You can inject small dose of the botulinum toxin here and correct this. Unnatural frozen appearance, if you inject too high dose of the botulinum toxin into the so it is always better to undertreat the patient and keep some of the expression in the patient. Next is the brow lift. The shape of the brow, the desired one in the female is at or above the supraorbital ridge with the lateral flare and arch here. While in the male, the brow shape is more horizontal at the supraorbital ridge. Which muscle are responsible for the shaping of the eyebrow? What are the levator of the eyebrow? Frontalis, right. And what are the depressor of the medial end of the eyebrow? Corrugator and the procerus and depressor supercilii. And what are the depressor of the lateral end of the eyebrow? Superolateral part of the here. Superolateral part of the orbicularis oculi. So, what is the safety zone area for the brow lift? This is the safety zone. Stay away from the lateral limbus line and 1 centimeter outside the orbital rim. The dose, initial recommended dose for female 5 to 10 units and in male 7.5 to 10. Here you are going to inject this part, superolateral part of the. What are the possible complications? Lip ptosis can develop if you inject too close to the supraorbital ridge near the lateral limbus line, as the toxin will diffuse into levator palpebrae superioris muscle through the orbital fascia. So don't go too close to the supraorbital ridge and keep your injection site lateral to the lateral limbus line. Now the bunny line developed due to the contraction of the nasalis. Close to the nasalis at the lateral border, this levator labii superioris, the aliquot nasi is there. So you have to inject only the nasalis and keep safe this muscle. Now ask the patient to elicit the muscle contraction by laugh, to sniff or squint. This injection should be superficial. Don't touch the periosteum. It could be painful. Inject only 2 to 5 minutes. And here you can see the bunny lines in this patient. Here is this bunny line. This horizontal line. No, this is due to procerus muscle contraction. So here, along with this bunny line, you have to treat the complex. These are the results before treatment and so what is the safety zone area for the bunny lines? Here is the safety zone, the diamond shaped area. The upper point of the safety zone is at the nasion. The lower point is midway between the tip of the nose and the nasion here, and the later point lies along a line which is drawn from the nasion to the LNSI to the nasion. So this is the safety area for the 1 middle injection and 2 lateral, 1.25 unit per site, and total dose should be 2.5. So what are the possible complications? Asymmetry and ptosis of the upper lip, oral incompetence with difficulty in speech, drinking and eating due to the involvement of the elevator of the lip. Epiphora, it may be due to the medial palpebral orbicularis oculi muscle. This is the lip asymmetry due to diffusion of the toxin into levator palpebrae superioris, levator labii superioris aliquinesi, or if you make injection too lateral to the safety zone area. Next are the lip lines are produced due to which muscle contraction? Orbicularis oris. You just to revise anatomy here, these are the lip levator, zygomaticus major, minor, levator labii superioris, levator labii superioris aliquinesi. These are the depressor, platysma, depressor anguli oris, and the depressor labii inferioris. Here you can see the lines. This is the picture before treatment and after treatment. The safety zone for the lip line, it is between the lateral border of the filter column. This is the filter column. You have to keep lateral to this line and 1 centimeter from the lip margin. And the lower part should be about half centimeter above the Vermilion border. This is the Vermilion border. Keep 0.5 centimeter above this, 1 centimeter from the lip margin, and away from the filter column. For the safety zone area for the lower lip is here 2 centimeter away from the lip margin and 0.5 centimeter below the Vermilion. Total dose should not, in the initial visit, should not exceed 3.75 to 5 units for the upper lip, 2 injection points for the upper lip here, and 3 for the lower lip area. Here you can see upper lip. What are the possible complications? There may be difficulty in speaking the letter P, B, difficulty in spitting, sipping from spoon, lip asymmetry may arise if you inject unequal amount over 2 sides. There may be oral. Next is the gummy smile. Gummy smile is the excessive gingival show when you smile. How you can correct this? If you inject here into levator labii superioris aliquinesi, which produces a nasal fold and also responsible for the gummy line. You have to inject at the muscle bulge at the superior part of the nasolabial fold, just 2.5 units at maximum at 2. The complications which may arise from this injection are the oral incompetence and the lip ptosis. Next is the chin line. Muscles are responsible for the chin line production. Mentalis. This is the mentalis. The muscle is deep here. So this can be injected to help the dimpled appearance of the chin and to give the appearance of the lengthening of the area. This is the safety zone for the chin line. This is 1 centimeter from the chin circumference. This is the chin circumference. The upper border is crossing the mental crease line, and 2 centimeter area from the mandibular margin, within 2 centimeter of the mandibular margin. This is the safety zone for the. Ask the patient to bow to elicit the contraction. There are 2 techniques, single and double injection techniques for the chin. If the patient has narrow pointed chin, then 1 injection here may be sufficient. If the chin is broad, then 2 injection point, 1 here and 1 here may be required in the patient. These are the pictures of the patient before treatment and after treatment. Complication which may arise from the treatment of this area: asymmetrical lip if you inject into depressor supercilii inferioris, oral incompetence if the orbicularis oris muscle is injected. This is the asymmetrical smile of injection line. Next is the marionette line. Which muscle are responsible for the marionette line? Depressor anguli oris, which draws the corner of the mouth downward. Here this line running downward from the oral commissure to the jawline. So, how can you elicit the contraction? Ask the patient to show the lower teeth. Here you can see this muscle, depressor anguli oris. What is the safety zone for this marionette line? The safety zone lies 1 centimeter anterior to the masseter muscle. For the masseter, you ask the patient to clench the teeth and palpate. You can palpate the contracted masseter muscle. So it should be 1 centimeter away from the anterior border of the masseter. This is masseter. Keep it 1 centimeter away and posterior to this marionette line, and include the 2 centimeter area on the mandibular margin. This is the mandibular margin. Okay. And the point of insertion should be at the intersection point of two lines. If you draw a line from the lateral canthus here and from the nasolabial fold, at the point of intersection, this is the point of insertion of the needle, and this should be 1 centimeter below the corner of the mouth to avoid the orbicularis oris muscle. Total dose required in the initial visit is just 5 units, the minimum dose. If the effect lasts for 2 to 3 months, you can call the patient after 2 weeks for the touch-up if there is still excessive infection. But then the possible complication here, lip asymmetry. If you make an unequal amount of injection at two sides, or the toxin diffuses into depressor labii inferioris, there may be cheek flaccidity if the toxin diffuses into the buccinator muscle or lateral injection, or there may be oral incontinence. Now, these are the neck band. These are the band which runs from the mandible to the clavicle. These are produced due to the contraction of the platysma. The platysmal muscle runs across the anterior and the lateral part of the neck and covers the lower half of the. This is the safety zone for the platysmal band. The medial point is 1 centimeter away from the trachea here, and the lateral line is, if you draw a line from oral commissure up to the clavicle, this is the lateral border. This is the medial border, which is 1 centimeter away from the trachea. The upper border should be 2 centimeter below the mandibular margin, and lower one 4 centimeter above the clavicle. For this band injection, you can inject 7.5 to 12.5 units per neck band, or total of 15 to 25 units for 2 neck bands. You can make 3 to 5 injection points into each band. If there is excessive laxity of the neck, then don't inject in this patient. What are the complications in this area? Here, if you inject too deep, you can involve the other neck muscle or laryngeal muscle, so you may cause dysarthria, dysphagia, and the hoarseness in the patient. Thank you. Any question? No question?